Welcome to the Green Goddess Podcast, where we explore the evolution of consciousness and sacred medicines. I'm your host, Tara. Today, we have a special guest, Joël Brierre, who works with 5-MeO DMT and the Toad Sacrament, leading retreats abroad. He is trained in plant medicine work in Peru and in the Caribbean, and he has studied yoga in an ashram in India, and he brings all of this work together to help people with integration of their experiences of peak consciousness, working with this medicine and other medicines. And he is a very knowledgeable speaker as well, and a wonderful asset to the medicine community. Really excited to have Joël here today. Thanks for being with us, Joël.
Thank you, Tara. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Please give us some information about the Toad Sacrament. Why is it valuable? How does it work? What's it all about?
All right. Well, first, just for clarity, I will identify that we are talking about 5-MeO DMT and not NN-DMT. NN-DMT is the visionary aspect of ayahuasca. When people refer to just DMT, they are normally referring to NN-DMT. We're going to be talking about 5-MeO DMT, which is also the active compound in the secretion of the Bufo Alvarius toad. What makes it so special to me and to so many is its ability to give us a non-dual experience. So this medicine is extremely powerful, first of all. Myself, I am of the belief, as are many as well, that this is the most powerful of the entheogens, and by entheogen, of course, that which allows one to experience God within themselves. And that's exactly what this one does at its peak experience. It dissolves the ego, or the default mode network, the self-identity completely, and allows our awareness to merge with infinite awareness. So it's a big experience, but a very beautiful one.
Yeah, and I love that you're talking about the non-dual state. And so that is that God realization or self-realization state.
We are growing as not just as a species or as humanity, but consciousness is growing and expanding. The universe, Brahman, is expanding, ever growing. And in this shift, I feel that this medicine has come about now for exactly this reason, to aid and facilitate in the shifting of consciousness and the remembrance of unity frequency consciousness. I feel that there is that draw across the masses right now, just like in media right now, in movies, Westworlds, a lot of movies about AI and singularity. That's a big topic of conversation right now. So I think this toad and the 5-MeO DMT, it's here for no coincidence, or by no coincidence. It's we're starting to ask some of the big questions now and starting to bridge together some of the answers, which is the wild part. So it's an exciting time to be alive, an exciting time to have such a powerful tool to work with.
Right, absolutely. So the toad, it comes from the Sonoran Desert, right?
Yes.
In Mexico?
Mexico and Arizona, yes.
Mexico? Oh, really? In Arizona?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's depicted, I know, in some art, ancient art, but nobody really has an unbroken lineage with it.
Yes, it has been depicted in some art, and some have made that suggestion that it was an indigenous tool. However, none of the art leads us to believe that it was used, that its excretion was used by smoking. It was certainly revered as a god. I believe there was some connection between it being an ambassador between worlds, so to say, and also it was prayed to, for the rain season in the Sonoran Desert, because the toads come up when the rains come up. So it was related to the bringing of life, really. But who knows, But there's certainly, if there was a lineage, it certainly did not survive time. It had been forgotten somewhere.
Right, so it's sort of a gift of the recent moment.
It is. It's a gift of the recent moment to help us fully surrender into the present moment.
Yes. And so tell me more about what are the benefits that you've seen as you've witnessed many people have this experience?
Oh, man. Well, that full experience, when you experience what we refer to as the full release, when there is that full extinguishing of self, um, that is such a big cathartic release that just its mere side effects include fairly big, significant decreases in anxiety and depression. Um, but that being said, I do not like to tout this as a medicine or tool to reach those goals or for that use. Again, I liken it to a grenade being used instead of a scalpel. But for those who are on the spiritual path, it is the ultimate rite of passage, full immersion into the infinite. And wow, I mean, to really experience and feel that type of peace, to know that type of peace where every worry, every little bit of doubt, every anxiety, everything has just completely been dissolved. And then everything you have identified with has been completely dissolved. And that process can be very scary at first. But when it all happens, and then upon return, you realize that you are so much more than you thought you were. And just this mere realization can be so big in someone's life because we can understand conceptually that we are all one. We can understand conceptually this unity frequency consciousness idea, but to really experience it in such a big and real way can be a major catalyst for improvement of all types in someone's life. I myself I really just feel like I've had this feeling of having arrived. I no longer feel as if I'm chasing something. I feel a certain satisfaction and contentment in my everyday life now that I previously had thought was unattainable to me. So yeah, very grateful for this one. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And you had said when we spoke earlier that there are people that it's not really a good fit for.
Yes, yes. I fully do believe that this is every human's birthright. However, the present moment may not be the best time for each individual. Certain things can certainly be aggravated by this experience. If someone is suffering from acute OCD and PTSD, there may be other avenues they would be better served by exploring first. And then when they are ready, jumping into this because that if they fight for control, if they are not ready to let go and they fight for control, first, the mind is going to translate it most likely into a very grueling experience. But it might be so rough that it becomes traumatic. And I have had a couple clients who are integration clients who are suffering from PTSD from their 5-MeO experience. They went to go have an experience and they came back suffering in some pretty debilitating ways.
What
It
kind of
can be
ways?
when this medicine is over administered, it can result in some pretty severe reactivations. And reactivations they can range from anything from a light glimpse of the experience to a full-blown godgasm activation. And if someone is not prepared, I find that the rate of people having big, unmanageable reactivations is a bit higher when people are not prepared for these medicines. There's a lot of facilitators darting around the world, and they're not screening people and not doing any preparation. And someone just might hear from a friend, "Oh, there's this new psychedelic out. It's called Bufo. It's crazy. It's super awesome. You got to try it." That may be all they hear. They hear this guy's coming along, sign up, and they may have no concept of what non-duality is. They may not have any idea that they are not the mind or that it doesn't go farther than this reality. And that can be a really, really, really hard way for someone to wake up. Yes, it can be beneficial. I'm not saying that isn't beneficial to everybody, to anybody, but that can be quite damaging for many people's psyches. So I feel it's a nice way, I feel, to go about it in a calm and nurturing way. Prepare people for it as much as you can prepare someone for something like that, because It is absolutely impossible to describe the state of non-duality. It's impossible to describe Samadhi or 5-MeO experience. It is the ineffable. So there's many practices we use to help prepare people for it, and then just making sure that they know they're safe. Trust is such a big factor. So making sure, that if you're going to crack them open, then you're going to be there for them to help pick up the pieces. I hear a lot of stories about people going under with some of these big facilitators, and they'll come to and they'll be on the floor, curled up against a wall on the dirty ground, and there'll be no one in the room, and the facilitator will be outside smoking a cigarette, laughing with his friends, and that can be huge confusion when the mind has just come back online and it's just had the carpet pulled out from under it, and it's trying to figure out what just happened. That fright right there alone can be traumatic. So just really treating it as the amazing spiritual emergence that it is, and holding space for it to properly blossom, I feel is essential.
Yes. So there's been some issues with some facilitators.
Trouble in Toadland, absolutely.
Troubles in Toadland.
Yeah.
So it's become really popular. It's kind of like the it medicine.
It's
the it medicine, but it's like trendy.
It is getting trendy, certainly.
Right. And so whenever that happens, there are people that are opportunistic.
Of course. And talk about a medicine that creates messiah complexes like anything. Oh my goodness. Because a lot of people can be very attached to that feeling, or even let's put it on an innocent scale. You have a huge experience and it just changed your life, and many of us, when we come out, actually, myself, I had no desire to serve this one for a while, but a lot of people, when they come out of it, I certainly wanted everyone I loved to experience it. So I wanted to sponsor everyone I knew and loved to the temple ASAP when I came out of it. And that can certainly lead into some messiah complex. If someone gets their hand on some medicine, as it's being kind of sold online right now in some pretty scary ways.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking on, people are just posting on Facebook, selling this stuff on Facebook in the forum. Well, not on the forums, but attempting to. But yeah, it's getting wild. But so they may have this huge experience, then they want their loved ones and friends to experience, and so they get their hands on some, and then go about their missionary route, and feel that because it was such a beneficial experience for them, it's going to be good for everyone. And if you don't have knowledge on how to safely work with this medicine or this substance, there can be some trouble. Physical contraindications, mental contraindications, spiritual contraindications. So it's that has definitely been happening. There's been a lot of cowboys out there, but like I said, that's where we're lucky to have certain groups like WeBack stepping up and really bringing things to the community and big issues to the community, try and promote safety. There's a group called the Conclave, which is, I think, somewhat of a semi-secret organization where they've put out some documents. I know there's an ethics document that just came out, ethics guidelines, because this is such a powerful thing, there can be big abuses of power. So I encourage people to look at that. They put out another one, Best Practices, which is great guidelines for practitioners. And there's a link to that on the Aware Project website as well. And that's great for anybody to look at, even if whether you're looking for a facilitator or if you are a facilitator. It'll show you what you should look for in a facilitator, how to know if they're going to keep you safe, because that's really important right now. Is if you're going to choose a facilitator, make sure you're going to choose someone who is, one, going to do screening and make sure that you are safe to work with it, and two, offer some sort of integration, some sort of support afterwards. And three, preferably don't pour water down your throat and blow rapé up your nose. Just the simple things,
Right. So can you walk us through what the process is like?
Oh, I'd love to. Absolutely. So let's say we are doing one of our retreats. We work in mainly Jamaica, Virgin Islands, Mexico, places where it's legal. We do short retreats, some days, sometimes 3-day retreats, sometimes 5-day retreats, sometimes longer. But let's say you have just signed up for this retreat. So we begin the screening and preparation process. So you'd receive a email first, and this would have an introduction and kind of a little blurb about how my wife Mary and I work, and kind of why we use the yogic lens. And then you'll receive another email that would be screening and in preparation. So first, preparation. For preparation, we use what's called the 5 kleshas, or the 5 root causes of suffering. The first klesha is avidya, which is ignorance. Not ignorance as in stupidity, but ignorance of our own nature as divine source, our own infinite nature. Secondly, we have asmita, which is egoism, and that is where we identify with our persona. That is where we have forgotten that we are infinite beings and we have identified with this earthly self. And I always stress that it is just fine to have an identity. Put on this mask. Just remember, it is a mask. Thirdly, we have raga, which is attachments. So we have forgotten we are all-encompassing infinite nature. We have identified with our earthly being, our persona here. And now we have attached ourselves to our possessions, not only to our identity, but to our things, our belongings, our possessions, our surroundings. Then we have dvesa and abhinivesa. So dvesa is essentially aversions. If you have forgotten your true nature, you have identified with your earthly persona, you have attached yourself to your belongings, it's likely that you have developed a fairly small circle of comfort. So you're going to naturally have aversions to stepping outside your comfort zone. And we all know that growth seldom happens within the comfort zone. So you're going to kind of lock yourself into place there in many ways. And then abhinivesa is fear, essentially fear of unknown or fear of death. And that just ties right back to avidya, because if you are unaware that you are the infinite, you are going to think it's all going to end with death. So I have people do journaling, and they'll kind of meditate on these 5 kleshas and see which ones are present in their life and journal about them. This helps us start to identify or narrow down an intention. Then we have a phone call where we'll just discuss kind of any fears and anxieties that they may be going through, where they're at in their life. We'll discuss the results of their screening, what they wrote, which I just forgot to mention. So the screening, which comes with the journaling, that's just medical contraindications, psychological screening, spiritual screening, just to make sure they're safe and sound for it. So then we'll have a touch-up conversation, fill in any gaps, and then I'll start giving them some tools, whether it be a certain meditation or a certain pranayama, a breathing technique, something that I feel may help them in preparation for this experience. When it is time to sit in ceremony, we generally do not do more than 6 people in a circle at a time. And it is 1 person at a time in the center of the circle as the rest of us hold space. And that person has, as long as they need to experience and process that energy in any way they need, everyone in the circle will be holding a safe and neutral space and not making sure we're not judging what is happening in the center, essentially, and not really projecting our own desires or our own fears onto the person's experience. We make sure this person is physically safe. So we always work in a safe place, generally indoors. There are very few outdoor places we work. There was a great spot in Jamaica we used. That was an outdoor spot, but it was very, very safe. Generally somewhere indoors where a person can still scream if they need to, where they're not surrounded by hard objects. We'll have them on something soft, and then we will make sure that they don't hit anything hard. We'll keep them safe and make sure they're breathing. Mary and I are both first aid certified, so we make sure that they're safe again. We've never had to use that, but it's good to be safe. And then afterwards, we do a little sharing circle, and we do a little bit more meditation, and I discuss reactivations and integration. And then each person receives an additional email. And this will have a personalized integration plan for each person based off of Patanjali's 8 limbs. So it will have the outline of all the 8 limbs, and then it will have certain things specified for individuals. Again, a specific meditation or a specific thing to focus on, a specific mantra, something like that. And so they'll have, 4 to 5 things on there that can help them with their integration. And then Mary and I, we make ourselves available day and night for anyone to call at any time if they're having any difficulties. Because I think that's very important, is making sure people have a support system. And yeah, I'd say that's the overall vibe of it. There's a bunch of juicy philosophy mixed in with the ceremony on non-dual Vedanta, so yogic Vedic philosophy, and lots of fun, juicy stuff like that.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds wonderful. A really beautiful way to present that medicine, where it sounds like your participants get to feel very held and cared for, which is really important with these kinds of experiences.
Yes. And actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. I almost forgot to include that part. So before anyone even comes into the ceremonial space, there's a foot washing ceremony in which Mary washes each person's feet and does a little flower ceremony. So we have some flowers, and they put intentions into the flowers and drop them into the water, and Mary washes their feet with the flowers, and it's very nice. So we like to pamper them, get them nice and cozy.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's how the divine wants us to be treated, really. I mean, that's my experience with the spirit world, is there's just so much love for us.
There's a lot of love in there. Absolutely.
So much love and gentleness.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, and then you wanted to share a little bit more about the states of consciousness that are being evoked, right?
Yes. So 5-MeO in its peak experience, you go to that non-dual plane, that non-dual experience, and that is essentially where there is no longer a subject-object relationship. So there is no me, there is no I, there is no self, there is no you, there is no this or that. There is no more person to think, wow, this is crazy. There simply is vast, oceanic, expansive, wholehearted just everythingness. And it is beyond thought, it is beyond language. It transcends our understanding, it transcends everything. And the yogis call this nirvikalpa samadhi. And with nirvikalpa samadhi, it is a full cessation of self. It is where the individual ego dissolves completely and our awareness merges with infinite creation, infinite source. And it is that remembrance that is just indescribable. Absolutely. But the yogis were courteous enough to map out these states thousands of years ago and really give us some great techniques for entering and exiting from these planes, because in full nirvikalpa samadhi, there really is no doing. And in fact, the only way to nirvikalpa samadhi is complete surrender or complete letting go. And that's also why it can be such a scary experience, because at the brink, when everything you know, love, and identify with is being swept away from you faster than you can reach and grasp for it, the mind can take this as a dying experience. It can take this as something horrific. It can be absolutely terrifying. There can be the fright of the permatrip, the if I go any farther, I will never come back. And all sorts of thoughts like that. And then when you fully surrender, there is what we would call moksha, or the extinguishing of the flame. And there is that release. And it is absolutely indescribable, yet totally liberating. And upon return, there's that magic space where you are, as Rakrazam would call it, at the edge of the cauldron, where you are still immersed in the experience, but you are of self. But you are still able to view all of eternity, all of creation before you. And it is awe-inspiring. It is everything, and it's just beauty. And that feeling of having no body and just fully being liberated from this physical plane is something of itself. And wow. And then there's just that slow return. And it can be kind of awkward at times because at the return, at first, as the default mode network comes back online bit by bit, and your sense of self begins to return, and you remember, yes, I am a human. I am me. I have just had this experience. Wow, that was crazy. And then come the insecurities generally. How long have I been laying here for? Did I pee myself? And all those thoughts. And also, I find there can be a bit of a falling from grace emotion attached to this coming back to self, because the mind can perceive it as a separating from the light rather than the light putting back on its human suit. And it can bring up some emotions sometimes. But I really find that in-between state is where the magic can happen. That's where the downloads happen. That's where you get to just watch people. And there's nothing more beautiful than watching someone immersed in the medicine where they are clearly getting downloads and you're watching them focusing on it. And they're nodding their head in agreement in compliance with these downloads. And you're just, it is fairly impossible to watch someone in this state and not cry just a little bit, because it is so humbling and so beautiful. But there's all these different levels of samadhi. Some are what we would call sabija, and some are what we would call nirbija. So with seed or without seed. So with seed would be still with mind, with self, so you are aware of this as an individual. Some are where you are completely immersed and there is no more self. But the Vedic scriptures gave us so much mapping for this, and it's been really fun, putting this lens through the yogic work and seeing what happens. And it's been very fruitful. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I would love to know exactly where we can read about the different states and how to enter and exit them.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I would recommend with some study of Vedanta, and I guess the essential yogic books. The first would be the Bhagavad Gita, of course. The Bhagavad Gita is a section of the Upanishad scriptures, and the Upanishads is a discourse between Arjuna and Krishna. And Arjuna is a commander of his army, and Krishna represents God or Brahman in human form. And Krishna appears to Arjuna and offers himself as his charioteer. And so the whole Bhagavad Gita is a discourse between the two of them, and it is essentially about the human condition. And this really gives us the best framework for how the mind works. And if you notice, there are 5 horses attached to the chariot, and it is essentially about reining in the 5 senses. These horses represent the 5 senses, the external senses. So reining in the mind. From there, we can get into the good Vedantic vibes. Anything by Swami Vivekananda is always great. James Schwartz has some good stuff and makes Vedantic study palatable for Westerners who do not have a deep yogic understanding. Adyashanti is wonderful. His teachings are almost a blend of Advaita Vedanta and early Zen Buddhism. I really gravitate towards him a lot because, just as myself, he stresses the dangers of getting attached to your spiritual practices. And that's why I do not like to claim a specific lineage anymore. I used to practice and teach certain lineages and was very proud of those lineages and spoke about them a lot, but I find that just leads to pathological thinking. And so I really resonate with Adyashanti's view of using the tools, but not letting them become you. And but yeah, any of his books, he has got one that is absolutely phenomenal. If I can remember it at some point, I believe it is called here it is, The End of Your World. I would say The End of Your World could be a pretty essential hand guide for anyone on this journey of emerging consciousness. and interested in non-dual states. And those philosophies are very applicable to 5-MeO states. And then, of course, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are an excellent read, great to study. Yeah, I'd say those are the good ones to start getting into those. Bihar Yoga also has amazing series of books. They're more for the kind of yogi nerds. If you want to get into the nitty gritty, any of the books by Bihar, and that's Bihar, School of Yoga, are just phenomenal. Just wonderful books.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's very helpful. Yeah. So I'm curious too what you think about the actual toad. Do you feel, have you had any experiences with the actual toad spirit?
With the actual toad spirit, except for in meditation. My wife and I, we work with both the toad secretion and the synthetic form, what we call the jaguar. A few years back, we went into meditation just about the toad, just to try and tap into that spirit. I feel, and the kind of messages I received were that the toads are voluntary carriers of this sacrament that is going to help influence and shift consciousness. That being said, I do not believe that using the toad secretion is in any way superior to using the synthetic form. I believe the toad secretion was here to show us and remind us of 5-MeO DMT. I love it in its natural toad form, and I love it in its synthetic form. To me, they're pretty much the same experience. But, it's looking like we're doing some harm to the toad population right now. And there are some huge efforts to really help make this a sustainable practice. I know there was a lot about this at WeBack. The new hashtag going around, Know Your Source, with number 5 being the S for source, really encouraging that people know where their toad medicine is coming from, because there's a lot of harvesters who are just really going to town on the poor creatures, not leaving them with their defense mechanisms, taking them out of their homes, piling them 20 toads in a bucket, not using gloves and spreading germs. A lot of not so good things happening to the toads. I'm of the opinion, if we're able to do it otherwise and leave the toads alone, then we can and should. We work with both because some people are still of the opinion that synthetic is poison or unclean or unpure, and that the toad is the way that God created it or nature created it. I am of the opinion that we are nature, and that if with proper intention, this is still a God and nature created sacrament. But who is to say that I am right? They are all paradigms and they are all stories, and in some way they are all right. So, hey, we offer both, and I just encourage people to know their source. We work with sustainable toad harvesters, and we know where it's coming from. And they pray with the toads. They take good care of them. They only milk the 2 main glands and leave the rest of them, so they still have the defense mechanisms. They don't milk them more than once every, I'm not sure. I know the safe space is 4 to 6 weeks, but they wait longer. They don't take them out of their home. They wear gloves, all the good safety protocol. So we know it's coming from a good place. But the toad spirit, I feel it is here, and it is here to work with us. But it's up to us to not feed into our wasteful ways and abuse this, as we have many other sacraments. So the toad spirit is here, and it's a strong spirit. But let's leave some love and respect for its physical body too. I plead to the community.
Yeah, that's a great point. Absolutely. Yeah, and it's interesting that you're personally not experiencing any real difference between whether it comes from the synthetic or the toad in terms of the experience.
If anything, I find the toad to be a little earthier and the DMT a little straight to the light. That is really only in my experience. I find slight nausea can occur more with toad, probably due to the other alkaloids. And then other than that, synthetic is just easier for dosage. It's more precise. But they're both absolutely wonderful. They're both just wonderful sacraments.
Yeah, yeah. So what was your first toad experience like?
My first full release was with the Jaguar. My first toad experience was a good one. It was a big one. See, actually, my first couple ones with Toad, I had already had plenty of full releases with synthetic. So my first many Toad experiences were sub full release doses. I myself, I'm a big fan of small doses. I like to do multiple rounds of low doses with this and really get into that space. In those low doses, the mind is still fully present, which can be very difficult because when the mind is fully present, it can and usually will resist, especially if people are not very practiced with the medicine. But when you work with it, it's working that surrender muscle, and then it gets real good. I find we can really get in some deep places. I've been working with a group doing what we've been calling yogi pods, and doing these little underground group sessions where it'll be four. Yeah, I think we've done 4 to 6 practitioners who are all practitioners of the medicine as well as yogis, and we've been practicing multiple low doses of the medicine with yogic techniques, different pranayamas, different mantras, etc., different formations of the group.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it's been pretty juicy. And yeah, so I'm a big proponent to low doses. I still love the full one. I still love a good full dose, but I'm finding, and as many do, the more you work with this medicine and the more you integrate it into your meditation practice or your spiritual practice, the less it's going to take. I mean, I full release off very low doses now of this medicine, and it's beautiful because it's really just about surrendering. And then we have to remember that we are the medicine, and all it takes is just a little, a little bit of practice, and you get to be able to fully surrender in and reach those states without the medicine. I am able to bring myself into very, very deep states and somatic states without the medicine, just by surrendering fully into the present moment, whether in meditation or in breath work, or sometimes just in contemplation. And I think that's a really poignant factor right there, is that this medicine is a really great tool for us being able to reach these states naturally without any external anything. So, yeah.
I love that. I love that you've been able to sink back in after the experience.
Yes, yes. It was
So
fairly
it's sort of
involuntary
like
at first, but then it it got a little more regular, a little more understanding of it.
that's a real gift
Oh
to get back
yes,
into that state of oneness
yes.
and connectedness and just unconditional love.
It is lovely to be in there.
Yeah, wow. So it's sort of like opening the pathways,
Yeah,
carving pathways for us.
yeah, yeah. It's building those bridges, exactly. Building those bridges, destroying the bridges that once held you back from realizing, and then building the new ones that help you remember quicker. I liken it to threads. So let's say you have just had a big spiritual awakening, whether with the medicine or without, and on occasion you find yourself slipping back into these unity states, but then you find yourself oscillating back into these earthly realms and having these earthly human thoughts, which is perfectly fine, by the way. But you may have these thought patterns that are less than unity frequency, we'll say. So it's all
Yeah.
about investigating this thought pattern, really dissecting it bit by bit, pulling on that thread, seeing where it came from, and saying, ah, I thought this about this person because what they said at this time reminded me of when I was told this during my childhood. Pull that thread a little deeper. That experience in my childhood has echoed out into these areas of my life and have affected me in these ways. And just the more you pull the thread up, the more you understand how that one thought pattern from a certain time has affected every part of your life. And then you pull that thread all the way out and release it and break down that neural pathway. And you do that with every thought pattern that pulls you out of unity state. And you keep pulling those threads out, and eventually the whole veil unravels. And you are left solely in unity state.
Hmm. Very good. Very good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the value of the integration work.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Without the integration, it just becomes a peak experience. So it's very, very valuable.
Yes. Is there anything else that you'd like to touch upon?
You know, maybe just a quote. I would say just a quote from Adyashanti that really wraps up the essence of this work or what this medicine is here to teach us, in my opinion. Adyashanti says, all that is necessary to awaken to yourself as the radiant emptiness of spirit is to stop seeking something more or better or different, and to turn your attention inward to the awake silence that you are. I think that really sums up what 5-MeO is here to teach us, what the spirit of the toad is here to show us. And I think all we have to do is learn to listen.
Yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're so fortunate to be here incarnated at this time.
Aren't we?
Yeah, these kinds of states and experiences were very much reserved either for those who, were hardcore dedicated to these paths as yogis and ashrams and so forth, or, monks and stuff in the past, and now it's available to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, the times are changing. The times are shifting. As my dear friend Albert said in one of his talks recently, he said, the age of the guru is done. Now it is time that we all bring our teachings. It's time that we all go inside and do our inner work, and we bring our fruits to the village. It's time we all go on the hero's journey and we find the elixir and bring it back, because not all, just one of us is going to find the key. I really feel that the key is broken into parts and is scattered all around the world. And when we all finally come together and start to work together, it's all going to open up for us. So this is just a start.
Wow, isn't that exciting? This is just the beginning. Whoa.
Yes.
What is next?
Woo!
Yes, it's a wave of enlightenment, that's happening here. And I do believe that because we are one being, we are one collective consciousness.
Yeah.
The more of us that are experiencing these heightened states, the more available it is to everybody.
Yes. We're all remembering together. Slowly but surely.
Right. Yes, and it is an expansion of the universe. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Brahman in yogic philosophy would be God. So there can be no picture or statue of Brahman as, that would be limiting Brahman. Brahman is unlimited, is pure source. But its roots, I believe it comes from the root bri, which means to expand or to grow. And Brahman is said to be the universe, and we know the universe is ever expanding and growing. So it all makes sense.
And so how lucky are we to be here in this form, getting to experience that?
I'm pretty stoked on
it. It feels very much connected to the astrological energies of the moment too.
Yes.
The ascension.
Oh yeah. It's all happening. It's all happening right now.
Yes. So what's the best way for people to follow up with you? Those who are listening, they may be interested in your retreats or want to connect with you. How should they get a hold of you?
Oh, you can find me on my website, which is itsallsource.com. itsallsource.com. You can email me at joel@itsallsource.com, and there's also a link through the website, of course. And then on Instagram, I am Joel, the entheogenic yogi, with underscores in between all the words. And yeah, anyone who has any questions, I encourage you to reach out anytime. I'm always happy to have a chat, talk yogi stuff, talk 5-MeO stuff. Love the community, love to get to know people.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Joel. This has been a really wonderful chat. I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your experiences and your wisdom and your insights. And I'm glad you're doing this work and providing these sacred experiences in such a beautiful way.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And as I like to say at the end of our show, may the plants be with you.
Oh.
Uh-huh.